Welcome in. Jesse Shule here from jesseshule.com. Saturday morning college football kickoff show. And I'm honored to be joined by Tony K from Vegas Top Dogs. Mr. Karpinski, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Jesse?
I'm doing all right. I did have a winner on my card last night in the CFL. I had an over. And did you know that 9 of the last 10 CFL games have gone over the total, Tony?
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
There's 2 more kicking off today, and the bookmakers haven't adjusted. I don't have any premium picks on either of them, but that information's out there for anybody who's interested. But we're not here to talk about the poor man's pigskin. We're here to talk about college football. And this man, Tony K, is one of the best in the business with college football. I was looking forward to announcing you, Tony, as the #1 college football handicapper at Picks and Parlays. But after the fiasco with NC State last night, Nick Parsons would be upset with me if I didn't give him his credit for passing you on the leaderboards. But you're right behind him at #2. I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm assuming you're pretty happy with that still.
Yeah, still off to a great start in college football. Disappointing loss last night with NC State, but I look forward. I have 4 premium plays today, and I expect to be back on top after these 4 games kick off. I'm looking forward to the full slate of action. I order a lot of food, sit back, relax, and watch some college football throughout the day here on Saturday.
Speaking of food, I just I landed in Saigon about 2 hours ago, rushed to my hotel, checked in, went out to a American smokehouse, got a rack of ribs, some mac and cheese, and some kimchi and some pickled cabbage. So I scarfed that back, got a sack of beer, and I'm back in my room to do this show. And I might, go out and cause a little mischief after this. I don't normally drink on morning shows, but it's about 10 o'clock p.m. where I'm at here in Saigon. So you'll have to pardon me. And I'm on vacation. What else was I going to mention, Tony? We're going to break down 3 games, 3 big games. Oh, you told me about your record. You're doing quite well with college football. Right. I might as well talk about my record if you don't mind, Tony, if you got a second to hear me out. I'm not as high up on the leaderboard as Tony and Nick and some of those other boys, but I'm off to a pretty solid start in my own right. And it's actually interesting the way it's unfolded for me, Tony. Don't ever let anybody tell you closing line value doesn't matter. I've heard people say that recently, and it really bothers me. I've bet on 15 games so far this college football season, and all but one of them have been a winner on one of the sites I'm on, depending on the line. But my record varies. I'm 14-1 at jesseshule.com and 14-1 at a handful of other sites. But it could be as bad as 10-6 or 10-5 or what have you. The record varies at all the different sites. And I think Tony's still with us. He must be hiding something because we can't see his face. There he is. I guess that's. I'm sure you've had experiences with that where your record varies all over the place when you're getting different lines at different times.
Right.
But it usually is a bigger deal earlier in the season when we're talking about a sample size of 15 games. By the time we get to the end of the college football season, it's going to look pretty uniform across the board. I'm certain of that. It always tends to even out.
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast here, and we're getting a lot of storms today, a lot of rain, a lot of thunder, lightning. So even though I normally have a very good internet connection, it's saying it's a little choppy here. So hopefully
you're coming in loud and clear for now anyways. Let's get after it, Tony. Let's talk about some of the big games on today's slate, starting with my favorite of the bunch, the one that I'm probably most passionate about, Ole Miss at Alabama. The public is all over Ole Miss here. Alabama's just -6.5 at home. Totals 55.5. I know you might have a premium pick on this game, but anything you want to tell us that you're keeping an eye on in this game, Tony?
I think it's going to be a great game to watch. It kicks off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Number 15, Mississippi. Number 13, Alabama. You got Lane Kiffin going against Nick Saban. A lot of hype in this game. Lane Kiffin 0-4 straight up against his former coach, Nick Saban. 3-1, though, ATS. Also, Alabama, since 2014, this is only the 7th time they've been a favorite at home. So, excuse me, this is only the seventh time they've been a favorite of single digits at home. Normally, they're huge favorites at home. They're only laying 7 today. But since 2014, only 3-4 when they're a single-digit favorite at home. So Jalen Milline is back for quarterback for Alabama. So he's more of a scrambler, and they've had their quarterback issues and also some offensive line issues in the past few games. But I do have a premium play on this game. I have a great write-up behind it. So I think it's going to be a great game. I think we have the right side here. I just wanted to throw out some stats between the two coaches and two teams in this big top 25 matchup.
Well, fortunately for our viewers, Tony, I don't have a premium play on this game. I've got a free pick, so I can talk about it and be as candid as I want. And I pity the fool who's betting on Ole Miss today. I think they're a real public dog. And when I hear the logic, when somebody comes at me and says, oh, man, Ole Miss could beat Alabama today, I'm like, and why? Did you say, did you see Alabama last week? It doesn't matter what they did last. If you're betting on what they did last week, you're going to lose all your money really quick. And I use evidence of this. Florida loses to Utah in week 1. Everybody's, Florida stinks this year, man. Florida is so bad. They lost. Well, guess what? Everybody loses at Utah, by the way. Utah has won something like 16 straight home games. So it's not like losing to Utah means you're bad. Anyways, we saw what Florida did last week. They stomped on a very good Tennessee team, or a highly rated Tennessee team, proving that you can't expect these the way a team looks one week to carry over to the next week. So there's that I dispute. I also dispute the notion that Jalen Milroe at quarterback for Alabama can't play based on the sample size that we've seen, because really he's only had one bad game, and that came against Texas, and Texas is ranked number 3 overall in the country right now. Right. Jackson Dart for Mississippi, if you throw him at top 2, 3, 4 ranked teams, how do you think he's going to do? He doesn't often play teams ranked that highly, and when he does, as far as I'm concerned, he's struggled. He didn't put up great numbers against Alabama at home last year, and now you're expecting him to come into Tuscaloosa and put up numbers. So the idea that there's this massive edge at quarterback for Ole Miss, I think, is based on a lack of concrete information. Jalen Milroe's only had 3 starts in his career for Alabama. He didn't play last week in the debacle at South Florida, so that game to me just doesn't count. The games that Ole Miss has played, they've racked up a ton of yards and points in games against Georgia Tech and Tulane. In fact, they were quite fortunate to beat Tulane with Tulane's backup quarterback, and they got a couple late scores at the end of the game, making it look like it was a convincing victory when it was anything but. I'm not saying Ole Miss is a bad team. I'm not saying that they can't come in here and compete. I'm just saying that I'm not seeing the evidence to suggest such, that other people, I think, believe they're seeing. But when you really break it down and you peel back the layers, I don't think that evidence actually exists. Right. Could they get lucky? Maybe, but like you said, it doesn't happen very often in Tuscaloosa. So right. My money is on Alabama.
Wonder what the look-ahead line was on this game. A couple weeks ago, it had to be double digits.
I think it was somewhere around 10 or 11 or something.
Yeah. I get so many customers, hey, did you see him play last week? Any game. Did you see how they looked last week? You can't just look at the previous game. You have to take, look at the team in full. And a lot of people are fooled. They just look at last week's scores and say, oh, this team played the Giants close. This team didn't, and that's where they get bitten.
Yeah, I saw Nick Saban on the Pat McAfee show discussing the quarterback situation and the reason why he didn't play Milroe last week and what his plan is moving forward with him. And Saban sounded logical. He sounded calm, and he sounded like he had a plan to me. And at the end of the day, I'm not, Milroe is the jury's still out on him. You can't say a guy's terrible after 3 starts, right?
Right.
In fact, I had a look at Jackson Dart's first 3 starts, and Milroe has a superior touchdown to interception ratio in his first 3 starts than Jackson Dart does in his first 3 starts. And as I mentioned, Milrose started against Texas, Texas A&M, and Middle Tennessee, and he put up decent numbers against Middle Tennessee. He didn't struggle against a bad team, and struggling against Texas, I don't think you can hold. I think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks this year that don't have good games against Texas.
Yeah, I saw that same interview with Nick Saban. He said they have 3 very good quarterbacks, and they want to give the other 2 quarterbacks an opportunity. The offensive line has struggled, but they're young. The quarterbacks are young. The offensive line's young, so I think they're going to get better as the season goes on.
Sounds like a good week to really focus on your running game to me.
Absolutely.
Anyways, let's move forward to another game that people are really excited to talk about. That's the Colorado at Oregon game. Colorado is getting 21 points here at Oregon. For some reason, that's not in the banner, but I can fix that. But Colorado plus 21, Oregon minus 21. The total is 70.5. Any thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's a high spread. You don't see spreads this high to top 25 teams. Colorado ranked 19th, Oregon ranked 10th. Deion's been doing great. Last year, Colorado only had 1 win. They're off to a great start this season. Deion's getting a lot of recruits. He's got his own shades, his sunglasses, Prime. They had over $1 million in sale, I read, that one day last week after his interview. So he's definitely a great recruiter, but this is a big step up for him against Oregon. I think Bo Nix will have a huge game against this Colorado secondary. They didn't look good last week against Colorado State. So many wide open crossing patterns. The defense looked weak. Secondary looked weak. But still, I think Colorado might be able to keep pace and score some points. And this total is set at 70.5. I think that's very high. But I could see a 54-35 type of score, and Colorado could get the back door. So if I had to play someone in this game, I think I'd play the over. I think it's going to be a shootout. As for the spread, 21 points is a lot. I'm going to stay off the side in this game. I think it'll be a great game to watch. It's going to be very explosive, a lot of points. So I'm going to sit back, relax, and probably take the over here between Colorado and Oregon as I look for both quarterbacks to have big games offensively.
Yeah, I don't have any action on this game. I was sitting on the fence waiting for an opportunity to really bet against Colorado because you mentioned they didn't look good against Colorado State. I'll take it a step further. I mean, the final score would indicate that they just dominated Nebraska from start to finish. Well, that game was a case of Nebraska beating Nebraska, not so much Colorado beating Nebraska. I believe the score was tied with like 2 or 3 minutes left in the first half, or it was 3-0 with just like 2 minutes left in the first half.
Defensive battle the whole first half. Yeah.
Yeah, and then things unraveled for Nebraska. Their quarterback started turning the ball over, and they couldn't score. And they were turning the ball over. But as far as Colorado dominating them, that wasn't the game that I saw, and I catch a lot of flack for that. I mean, if you're going to go on these shows and comment about Colorado, you can't say anything negative about them, or you're going to start getting hate mail. But one thing I will say, that this line to me indicates that Colorado fans don't have any money, because they all talk about how Colorado's going to win outright, Colorado's going to cover, don't disrespect Colorado. But the line goes from opening at 15.5 to 21. Clearly, the people that feel that way don't have the money to influence that line, because it's way up there right now. And I was kind of hoping that they would. I was hoping to see Colorado really lay a whooping on Colorado State. Like if Colorado beat Colorado State by 30 points last week and Shadir Sanders throws for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns again, what would that line be at Oregon? It certainly couldn't be any higher than 12 or 13. And yeah, I was even thinking it could come down to single digits. And that's where I wanted to bet on Oregon. I don't want to bet on Oregon minus 21, because I don't see why Oregon needs to beat Colorado. I mean, Colorado is a ranked team. Oregon just needs to get out of this game without suffering any injuries.
Right.
you mentioned Bo Nix. If I was Oregon and I'm up 20 in the fourth quarter, Bo Nix isn't going back in there.
Right.
He's a guy that could easily pick up a knee injury trying to run the ball late in the game, and you don't want to see that. And obviously I'm not the boss at Oregon, and their coaches might think differently. They might have different factors and boosters to impress and ratings and all that. But if you actually want to win the Pac-12 and make a playoff spot, the smart way to coach in that game is to not worry about the final score, get the W and get out of there with your players healthy. And sometimes that comes at the expense of covering the point spread. So, which is the reason why I don't have a bet on Oregon today. I had the number set in my head over 44.5 for the team total for the Ducks. Mm-hmm. I would have hit it at 44.5, but it opened at 45.5. I think it's up to 46.5 now. And I just thought that was, that's the bet that everybody wants to make, right? Everybody wants that bet. So you're not getting any value on it. And
yeah, that's pretty high.
I think it'll be a shootout.
I wouldn't bet Colorado money line. I heard a lot of people betting them, to win outright. I can't see that happening, but I could see them, getting a backdoor cover or late spread victory in this game.
Yeah. One thing is Colorado just can't stop the run, and Oregon can certainly run the ball. They could build a pretty nice lead early in the game. Perhaps Oregon first half, but again, that's going to be overpriced. Everything that makes sense is just going to be overpriced because everybody that's got the money to spend. I know there's a lot of Colorado fans out there, but when you don't think logically and you're willing to bet Colorado money, people that are willing to bet Colorado money line probably haven't made a lot of money betting on sports, so they don't have a ton to influence the lines.
Absolutely.
So we got a question from Scott Christensen. I was thinking the line would be -7 to Colorado with Oregon prior to the Colorado State. Well, I'm kind of ashamed to admit it because I was on a live show and I said it could be 8. And maybe I was dreaming. I realized it was like 28 back in the summer in the look ahead for the future lines. But we had seen all that momentum coming on Colorado. And when they beat TCU and they beat Nebraska, you see Vegas was just taking a ton of bets on Colorado. And I think it would have continued this week if they didn't look so bad last week. But But yeah, I was surprised that even the line's at 21, and all these there's still a lot of people that are talking smack about Colorado, but clearly they're not putting their money where their mouth was. Otherwise, the line wouldn't be 21.
Yeah, good question would be, what would the line be if it was at Colorado or at a neutral site? I'm sure it would be single digits.
Well, let's move on to the final big game that we're going to break down today. Ohio State, Notre Dame. Oh, somehow we're missing the line there too. We can fix that. We got
last
Notre
I saw,
Dame.
I think it was 3.5.
I'm going to call it 3 because I think if you can get a 3.5, you're pretty lucky right now. I think it was mostly 3s across the board, and there was. I will say that I did make a play on this game, and I did grab one of those 3.5s. And I would caution that if you can't get it, if somebody follows me, if somebody out there that follows me, if you can't get the 3.5, I don't like it as much. I mean, that was the what sucked me in. The fact that I could get that half point sucked me in for a late. This was the last ad on my card. I added it this morning, and at the end of the day, I just thought to myself, these teams played a close game last year, and we got a downgraded quarterback for Ohio State, Kyle McCord, compared to C.J. Stroud. We got a massive upgrade with Notre Dame. Who was it last year? Buckner and Pine and Buckner, and now you got
Sam Hartman.
Hartman, yeah, Hartman. Huge upgrade there, and the home team getting the 3 and a hook is too tempting for me. You got any thoughts on this, Tony?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I've been on other shows throughout the week and talked to a lot of people just going to the gym, and probably 15 different people I've spoke to. I haven't heard one person say they like Ohio State. It scares me. Everyone says they think Notre Dame's going to win outright. Notre Dame. They are 9-2 their last 11 as a home dog. Sam Hartman's off to a great start, 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So I think you have the quarterback edge with Notre Dame, but Ohio State's still very talented. They are young. Their offensive line is young, but two great defenses, a lot of weapons on both teams. It's almost like a public versus pros play here, because the public just loves Notre Dame. Like I said, over 15 people.
I have heard on one of the Wager Talk shows, Gianni the Greek was saying that all the sharps are lined up on Ohio State.
Really? That doesn't surprise me, because everyone, I've talked to, they just think this is Notre Dame's chance. After this, they could run the table until they play USC. So they're already counting this game as a win, but I think Ohio State's going to come in hungry. I know Ohio State played very weak schedule. They all three of their first 3 games were all at home. They were 30-point favorites in all of those games. So they've had a cupcake schedule so far. So this is a big step up playing at Notre Dame, and a very good Notre Dame team.
Yeah, that's the problem for me, is neither of these teams have played anybody yet. So you really nothing from what I can't really draw any conclusions based on what, especially for Ohio State, they haven't played anybody. There's really nothing you can learn from playing the teams that they played and piling up points the way they have. What was it? 70 points on Western Kentucky last week. I mean, that just doesn't mean anything to me. And Notre Dame, maybe you thought Navy would be a little more competitive than that, but apparently not. And Notre Dame really hasn't played anybody either.
Who's Notre Dame's toughest challenge so far? Did they play NC State, I think?
Did they? I guess. I mean, it's not a terrible win.
Yeah, I think they play them week 1. I can't remember.
Week 0, they played Navy. They would have had a bye.
Oh, that's right. That was over in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
Week 2, who'd they play?
I don't think it was NC State. I can't remember their schedule.
Quick.
But I don't think I would have said they haven't played anybody if they played NC State, because at least NC State
played someone decent. But let me look it up while we're chatting here. Notre Dame.
Yeah, so I mean, it ended up being a late ad for me, a small play. It's not something I'm in love with. I've got much bigger plays on the board today, but like I said, I just got sucked in by getting 3 in the hook with the home dog, with the superior quarterback. And I know Ohio State's got all those 5-star recruits, Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're probably going to get a touchdown or 2 just from being more athletic. But can Notre Dame recover from that with, the experience? Having a guy who's his first year starting, and having a guy like Sam Hartman who's got, 5 years as a starter in college football, and 5 good years at that. That's a huge difference, having a veteran compared to a rookie coming in, especially a guy that he hasn't played against a Power 5 team yet, right?
Right. He played NC State 2 weeks ago. At NC State, it was 45-24. So they did win by 21, although the first half was very close.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that now. So that's
yeah, they scored 28 second half points to kind of blow it open, 21 in the fourth quarter. So it was a 7-point game in the first half, and then they kind of blew it open in the fourth.
That's a better game than anything Ohio State's got on their resume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we got a question from Andrew Schrader, and it's a pretty good question. Any thoughts on some off-label games, boys? I think I know what he means by off-label games. Some of my friends like to call them sicko games. I don't really have an opinion on the MAC game. I like Ohio with Curtis Rourke. They'll probably be overvalued because everybody likes Ohio with Curtis Rourke. So, for that reason, I just didn't even bother breaking that game down or looking at it. But when you talk about Colorado State at Middle Tennessee, That looks like a situational masterpiece, that severe letdown spot for Colorado State, now having to go on the road. And I don't think that Middle Tennessee State team's that bad. So I think, I'll take the home team in that one. You got any thoughts on any of those games, Tony?
Another game I was looking at earlier in the week, the line keeps moving around, was Akron at Indiana. I think Indiana has a great chance to get a blowout win here at home over a very weak Akron team. So if you're looking for a small school play here, you're going to lay 16.5, but I think Indiana should get a blowout win over a very down Akron team this year.
Similar to the CSU Middle Tennessee game, the Rice is playing South Florida, and South Florida coming off the Alabama game where they were highly competitive against Alabama. I think there has been some well-documented cases of teams struggling after playing a physical game against Alabama. Mm-hmm. And Rice is off to a pretty good start. They've been covering spreads and they've looked better than expected. So I kind of like Rice in that game.
Yeah, when I was looking up the Notre Dame score to see who they played a few weeks ago against NC State, I did notice they have Duke on deck next week. So that's going to be a big game for Notre Dame, especially if they get the win over Ohio State, because Duke's a very good team this year, offensively and defensively. So that's going to be a big game next week.
Scott Christensen wants to know about Central Florida at Kansas State. I hate betting on these games where a team's starting quarterback is out. And I guess Plumlee is not going to play for Central Florida. And the guy they got, McLean, I think he played for South Florida previously. He's been around a while. He's got some experience. So it throws a bit of a wrench in trying to predict. You throw in another guy like that, and all of a sudden there's more variables. I do like Kansas State as a team. I like betting on teams coming off things like that 61-yard field goal loss. Now they're back home. This looks like a great bounce back spot for them. I'd probably like it more, to be honest, if Plumlee was playing. And I stayed off of it because I don't like betting against guys that I'm not as familiar with, because I think you can get burned that way, especially if you got to pay a price for it. If a team's starting their backup, but then you got to pay more to bet against that team, I think that's a losing proposition.
Yeah, I kind of lean towards Kansas State in that game, coming off that tough loss. They did have a ton of penalties in that game, a ton of drop passes. I just think they'll bounce back. They're at home again, so they don't have to travel. So I expect them to play much better, clean things up, and get a big win here at home today.
Yeah, I agree. Little concerning that Howard is a bit hobbled, but I think that kid's played hurt. I've seen him play hurt before. And as he mentioned, they've got a capable backup there. And yeah, we saw this with Kansas State last year. I mean, we've seen it over the years with Kansas State. Their quarterbacks do get beat up, and they roll. It's a next man up mentality. I certainly do lean towards Kansas State there. Anything else you want to talk about today, Tony, or should I just start telling people what your accolades are and where they can find your picks?
Well, I hope I can remain hot. I'm looking forward to the games today. College football has been my bread and butter. It used to be college basketball, but college football, for some reason, I'm getting a very good read on the past 4 or 5 years. So I'm looking forward to the games today. I'm looking forward last week, 4-1. If I could go 3-1 or 4-0 this week, I have 4 premium plays. Keep that momentum going here into the NFL Sunday as well.
We got another question. Oh, no, that's an old question. Sorry. Anyways, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, Tony, you and I have known each other for about a decade now, maybe a little longer, so we're familiar with each other. But before I decided to do today's show with you, I wanted to have a look at your long-term numbers to get an idea of where you stand. And, man, pretty impressive. Number 1 all-time with all sports at picksandparlays.net, a site that we're both on. College football, you're number 2 all-time. No shame in being number 2 when you're competing against the best in the world. And no shame in being number 3. You know who's number 3?
You. Sun's
Better
out,
believe it.
guns out.
Sun's out, guns out. You better believe it. Yeah. No, I've had the last few years have been pretty good for me in college football. Really, overall in my career, college football has been probably, if not my best sport, one of my best sports. I find I do well with the NFL, but college, you got so many, you got all these games, right, that you can pick and choose. You could go over a ton of data and you can come up with things that you just can't beat the books the same way in the NFL because it's easier for the books to really tighten up those lines, and they don't leave you too many scraps, too many loop, but there's a ton of scraps on the table for you if you want to start digging in college football. That's and college basketball. That's what I've found. Would you agree with that, Tony?
Absolutely. Yeah, you have some small schools, plus there's a huge slate. There's 80 games on the board today. So NFL, the teams are very even. A lot of the games come down to the fourth quarter. So I have very few selections in the NFL, probably 3 a week. But college football, college basketball, you could look for some small schools. You could get, a better feel for the games. And I think we have a major edge in the college sports wagering.
Do you have any promotions going on over at Vegas Top Dogs at the moment, Tony?
I do. I have a $99 7-day special and $275 for 30 days. That includes all sports. You'll get college, NFL, all the Monday night games, all the marquee games, primetime games, plus the remainder of baseball. And the baseball playoffs are right around the corner as well. So if you get a long-term subscription, it'll be all sports during that time. So they could check that out at VegasTopDogs.com.
Well, great minds think alike, because I've also got a 7-day for $99. And oddly enough, I think I've sold a half a dozen subscriptions just this morning before the show. 3 days for $99. I guess people just didn't scroll down and see that there was the promotion going on. I guess maybe I should take that 3-day package off the table. But I do promote it every day here. 7 days, $99, all sports. And a guy like me, I bet on soccer, CFL. I'm all over the show when it comes to betting on different sports. I even dabble in things like WNBA, even though I've lost interest in WNBA for the rest of this season anyways. But CFL is still good betting opportunities in the CFL, let me tell you. And I am number one all time at picks and parlays with CFL. But
I think you're also number one in the gym. I saw you do 225. How many reps did you do not long ago? You might be the pound for pound.
I might be number one competing with guys that are pushing 50, like 47-year-old men. But yeah, no, I was able to rank pretty highly on the NFL player bench press records for the NFL.
How many reps
Combine.
Did you get? 20?
I haven't gotten 20 yet. I think my best is 19.
Wow.
Derrick Henry has done 22, and Derrick Henry is widely considered to be like a freak, right? So, and I'm a 47-year-old man. I'm kind of fat. I drink beer a lot. So, 19 is pretty good for me, I think. There not too many guys our age, I don't think, are ripping off 19 reps at 225.
I repped out 16 a few months ago. That was my high, but I'm 49, so it's tough as you get a little older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of other things are tough, but I think the bench press, you can, as long as you keep it up, as long as you're going to the gym regularly, I don't think you lose strength till you're in your 50s or something. I mean, yeah, that's what I've noticed anyways. I lose stamina, and my knees are blown out, my joints and everything else. But as far as just weightlifting strength, haven't seemed to lose much yet.
I've been doing this push-up workout as well, and I think that's been helping with my bench press, doing push-ups, doing 100 3 times a week. I think that's been helping with my chest workout. So we'll see how that goes.
What do you think of Big Penix energy?
What is that?
Michael Penix in Washington. Andrew's asking if he thinks Washington continues to go full throttle. I personally think Washington is perhaps even better than people think they are. They brought back all those receivers from last year. Their offensive line's playing quite well this year. Penix is obviously doing quite well. Experienced guy. I mean, good coach.
Right.
They might well be I kind of like them more than I like USC, to be honest with you. And I know
they've
that's
been
not a
flying
very
under the radar. They've been blowing out everybody each week. So they're
I know that's not
definitely,
going to be a very popular opinion that Washington's better than USC, but we'll wait and see. I will say that the last few years, everybody's been high on UCLA, USC. Meanwhile, Utah just silently owns the Pac-12 and gets no respect.
yeah. Yeah, they have a tough one today against UCLA, so we'll see how that one pans out. UCLA, Utah.
Mm-hmm. And I still haven't heard if Cam Rising's actually going to play. Have you?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I don't think Whittingham's going to tell anybody till like an hour before kickoff. Anyways, I think it's time to wrap this up, Tony. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I wish you luck in today's games, and I hope that you'll come back and we'll talk football again sometime soon. We'll be in touch. And guys, keep in mind, you can find Tony at VegasTopDogs.com. And you
Thank
can
you
find
very
me at
much.
JesseSchul.com.
Hey, thanks very much for having me on. I really appreciate breaking down the games and look forward to another big day in college football. Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, Tony. And I pity the fool that bets on Ole Miss today.